What is actually inside your tomato sauce? When you squeeze that bright red sauce onto your meat pie or hot chips, you probably assume you are getting tomato. After all, it is called tomato sauce. But what if I told you that some brands contain more sugar than actual tomato, that the bottle in your fridge might be 24% sugar by weight? And that the factory which once made your sauce right here in Australia was shut down, stripped of its equipment and shipped to New Zealand, while 146 workers lost their jobs. Australians spend hundreds of millions of dollars on tomato sauce and ketchup every year. But behind those familiar squeeze bottles lies a story of factory closures, foreign ownership, and products where sugar rivals tomato as the main ingredient. Today we are exposing 7 fake ketchup brands sold in Australia. Stay until the end, because I will show you the Australian-owned alternatives that actually deliver what they promise. Let's start with the biggest name in the business. Brand number 1, Heinz Ketchup. Heinz is the world's most recognisable ketchup brand. They have spent decades trying to convince Australians that American-style ketchup is superior to our traditional tomato sauce. But here is what they do not want you to know. Heinz tomato ketchup sold in Australia today is made in the Netherlands. That is right. The ketchup marketed to Australian families is manufactured on the other side of the world and shipped here. But it was not always this way. For 70 years, Heinz processed tomatoes right here in Australia. They had a factory in Girgarre, Victoria, in the heart of the Goulburn Valley, one of our premier agricultural regions. In January 2012, they closed it down. 146 workers lost their jobs, affecting around 600 people whose livelihoods depended on that factory. The community tried to save it. Workers formed a cooperative with tomato farmers, offering to buy the plant and continue production. They had ideas to cut costs that they had been advocating to Heinz for years. One worker pointed out that simply installing a water recycling system could save 35% of water usage immediately. Heinz refused. Instead, they implemented what locals described as a scorched earth policy, dismantling equipment, including a 40-year-old boiler, and shipping it to New Zealand. Girgarre was the second to last tomato sauce factory in Australia, ending Heinz's 70 years of tomato processing in this country. Now let's talk about what is actually in that bottle. Heinz ketchup is 24% sugar by weight, according to the Environmental Working Group. Nearly a quarter of what you are squeezing onto your food is sugar. While they claim 72 to 77% concentrated tomatoes depending on the product, that sugar content remains significant. Heinz is owned by Kraft Heinz, the American food conglomerate backed by Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway and Brazilian private equity firm 3G Capital. In 2015, they merged Kraft Foods with Heinz to create the world's 5th largest food and beverage company. Hey you. Before we move on to the next brand, I want to extend an invitation to you. I know it is a lot of information to absorb. When I started researching all of this, I felt completely lost. So I started taking notes. Every brand I researched, every hidden trick on the labels I discovered, every safer alternative I found. Over time, this has become something I use every time I go shopping. Have you ever thought about if there was a complete guide that told you exactly what to buy or what to avoid? Well, it exists, and I call it my secret Australian food survival guide. It covers all the aisles, all the product categories, the brands to avoid, and the ones worth supporting. If you want to take a look, I have left a link in the pinned comment and also in the QR code that is appearing on your screen. I do not know how long I will keep it there, but it has completely changed the way my family eats. So if it makes sense to you, I will be waiting for you at the special link. Now let's get back to the video. Brand number 2, Fountain. This one hurts because Fountain has been part of Australian culture since 1906, born when W.C. Douglas Company started making tomato sauce in Surrey Hills, Sydney. But Fountain is no longer Australian-owned. The brand passed through Cerebos, which was purchased by Suntory Limited of Japan, and then ended up under Kraft Heinz. The same American multinational that closed the Girgarre factory now owns what was once a proudly Australian sauce brand. Brand number 3, Master Foods. Henry Lewis started Master Foods in 1945. By 1965, it was a beloved Australian brand. In 1967, it was sold to Mars Incorporated, the American multinational. But here is where it gets worse. Master Foods recently sparked outrage when they changed their labelling. Older bottles proudly displayed 100% Aussie grown. Newer bottles show ingredients averaging just 35% Australian content. When questioned, Mars Food Australia explained they cannot always get enough tomatoes locally, so they import from North America. If you want Australian tomatoes, you need their specific Aussie Farmers range. But most shoppers grabbing the regular bottle have no idea they are getting American tomatoes. Brand number 4, Coles Tomato Ketchup. You might think supermarket-owned brands keep money in Australia, but Coles Tomato Ketchup is almost 30% sugar, one of the highest on the market, more than many soft drinks when compared per 100 grams. Private labels squeeze smaller Australian manufacturers out of the market. When supermarket giants control shelf space and their own competing products, independent Australian producers struggle to survive. Brand number 5, Aldi Colway. Aldi's house brand comes at attractive prices, but taste testers consistently rate Colway tomato sauce poorly. In blind taste tests, it frequently comes last. Every dollar spent at Aldi is a dollar that could have gone to an Australian-owned competitor. Brand number 6, imported premium brands. When you see ketchup marketed as premium with American or European branding, you are paying extra for products that have travelled thousands of kilometres. These brands offer nothing Australian producers cannot match. Brand number 7, any sauce with sugar as the second ingredient. Here's the dirty secret. Sugar is cheap. Tomatoes are expensive. The lower the tomato content, the more sugar manufacturers add to create acceptable flavour. Check your bottle. If sugar appears as the second ingredient after tomatoes, you are consuming tomato-flavoured sugar sauce. Some studies found ketchup can contain more sugar than tomato by weight. A Mexican consumer protection study found brands including Heinz contained over 40% high fructose corn syrup. So what should you use instead? Genuinely Australian-owned alternatives are available in your supermarket right now. Rosella is 100% Australian-owned. The brand dates to 1895, when founders H.R. McCracken and T.J. Press started making preserves in a backyard in Carlton, Victoria. Tomato sauce was first produced in 1899. Rosella had a turbulent ownership history, spending 40 years under Unilever, but in 2013 the brand returned to Australian hands when Sabrands Australia acquired it. Their classic sauce contains 76% tomato puree with no preservatives and no artificial colours or flavours. They use glass bottles and proudly label their products as Australian-owned and made. Beerenberg is family-owned, farming in Hahndorf, South Australia since 1839. That is 6 generations of the Page family on the same land. Their tomato sauce contains 53% Australian tomatoes, made right on their Adelaide Hills farm, with no artificial colours, flavours, or preservatives. Beerenberg's products are served in Qantas First and Business Class, which tells you something about the quality. When you buy Beerenberg, you support an Australian family that has been working this land for nearly 200 years. Their farm shop in Hahndorf is a major tourist attraction in the Adelaide Hills. 3 Threes is another Australian family success story. Stanley Roy McAlpine, a Sydney tram conductor, founded it in 1919. Today it is managed by the 4th generation of the McAlpine family, with the 5th generation also working in the business. Their tomato sauce contains 62.5% Australian tomato pulp, with a hint of mustard and horseradish for a distinctive tang. Fans describe it as thicker, richer and full of flavour. 3 Threes also makes Mighty Mite, created specifically to offer Australians a yeast extract spread owned by an Australian company. Unlike Aeroplane Jelly, founded by McAlpine's workmate but now foreign-owned, 3 Threes remains entirely Australian and family-owned. Your tomato sauce might contain up to 1/4 sugar by weight. The iconic brand that once processed tomatoes in Victoria now manufactures in the Netherlands after closing its factory. Brands born Australian, like Fountain and Master Foods, are now foreign-owned. Even products labelled Made in Australia may contain predominantly imported ingredients. But you have choices. Rosella, Beerenberg, and 3-3s are genuinely Australian-owned, using Australian tomatoes and supporting Australian jobs. They are available in Coles, Woolworths, and independent supermarkets right now. Every time you choose Australian-owned sauce, you are voting with your wallet, supporting local farmers, local jobs, and local families who have made quality products for generations. Check your pantry tonight, read the label. Next time you reach for the sauce, make it Australian. If you found this video valuable, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to know the truth about their tomato sauce. Until next time, buy Australian.